Wait, so are we gonna get Red Shoes versus Tomatonga at Wrestle Kingdom? Whew, Raw was awful. Thank God, New Japan. Alright, so the G1 Climax is in full swing, and I wanted to sort of put my halftime thoughts up. At the time of this recording, everyone in blocks A and B have wrestled 4 and 3 matches respectively. Obviously, that's not gonna be the case anymore by the time you get to see this, but that's fine because the G1 is literally 20 cards of stellar pro wrestling action spread out over 2 months. So there's plenty of matches to talk about and dissect, and dissecting each one of them would take me until the next year's cup. With that in mind, these are my top 10 must-see matches of the first half of the tournament. They aren't based on any star ratings, and they're all in here for different reasons, but each one of them has served as a small reminder of why New Japan Pro Wrestling is the best wrestling company on the face of the planet, and you should go out of your way to see each one of them. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified of any future videos. And here we go. Number 10, Juice Robinson versus Tetsuya Naito. We start this list with one of the most high-octane matches on the entire tournament. It is fair to say that I'm not the only one who wasn't a huge fan of Juice Robinson until fairly recently. He was underwhelming on NXT as CJ Parker and just sort of looked lost in the multi-man tag shuffle in the New Japan undercard. That isn't the case anymore. Juice has found his footing in New Japan and has shown a combination of infectious old-school babyface charisma and a high-impact moveset to match it. He went up against my current favorite New Japan wrestler in this Block B match, Tetsuya Naito. Now, in storyline purposes, Naito has been experiencing a shit 2018. He came up short in the main event at the Tokyo Dome against Okada and followed that up by getting his ass summarily handed to him by Minoru Suzuki, only to just barely win back his Intercontinental Championship, which he lost almost right away to Chris Jericho in a brutal match. Naito cannot catch a break in 2018, and a huge part of that has been to his willingness to embrace a more fan-friendly in-ring style, which doesn't always lead him to victory. This match saw both of them desperate for points, as Juice Robinson was victory-free thus far in the tournament, due in large part to a hand fracture that almost kept him out of the G1 entirely. And Naito struggled out of the gate, having lost to current champ Kenny Omega and just barely getting by the Stone Pitbull. The end result is a match that sees Naito revert to some of his more underhanded techniques while still remaining a crowd favorite. Without spoiling too much, the end sequence is one of those things that makes you reach for the replay button, because human beings are not supposed to be able to move like that or land on those parts of their body that often. Number 9, Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr. If Naito is having a shit 2018, these two are having a career year. Their meeting in last year's G1 was a spectacle unto itself, but that's quickly getting outshone here. While this wasn't as good as their juicy bracket-busting New Japan Cup semi-final match, it's still a great character moment for both men. Having tapped out everyone and their uncle in recent months, Zack Sabre Jr. walks into this match with an evil aura of unstoppable immortality that you can't really buy in pro wrestling without months of proper booking. Roman. Sonata then has to figure out how to wrestle the human octopus, and what we're left with is some of the most enticing chain wrestling sequences I have ever seen in my life. The match is short, and Sonata picks up the 2 points after one of those sequences ends in a pinfall for the Cold Skull. The look of disbelief in Sabre's face at the end of the match is golden. Number 8, Hiroki Goto versus Sonata. Another Sonata match. I want to take a moment to fully acknowledge how good his opponent is, though. Hiroki Goto often goes unmentioned in the conversation of the best wrestlers working today, but that is because when you work for a company that features Okada, Omega, Naito, Suzuki, and Tanahashi and books all of them well, it is very, very hard to stand out. That being said, Goto has quietly had himself one of the best 2018s in the entire company, with a show-stealing match against Suzuki at Wrestle Kingdom and back-to-back brutal encounters with Michael Elgin earlier this year. This match makes Goto look like a killer, while establishing Sonata's Dragon Sleeper, the Skull End, as something lethal and match-ending, to be avoided at all costs. Goto does what Goto do and nearly murders Sonata with devastating back-to-back GTRs to pick up the win. Number 7. Hiroki Goto versus Kenny Omega. Man, I love Goto. I don't think you need me to tell you how good Kenny Omega is, so I'm just gonna reiterate how much I love Goto. I walked into this match expecting him to pick up a victory over the champ to set up something for Omega to do while he waits for the Wrestle Kingdom, but I guess he has the Bullet Club OGs to concern himself with. Also, apparently, Kenny is wrestling with a fractured heel, as per the latest episode of Being the Elite, which is nuts. This match was brutal and basically served to remind everyone that the never openweight champion can hang with anyone on their best day. Goto nearly upsets the world champion on multiple occasions, but the one-winged angel remains a move that nobody has kicked out of in New Japan, and Kenny picks up the 2 points. Number 6, and I am not shitting you, Michael Elgin versus Joshi Hashi. I know. I don't want to spoil too much because this caught me by surprise as well. I am not a fan of Yoshihashi or Elgin for that matter. One, because, dude, it's Yoshihashi. And the other, because they aren't a good person outside of the ring, and that tints everything that they do in the ring with a slight shade of guilt. I don't like enjoying Elgin's matches. However, the story here is that Yoshihashi couldn't win a match to save his life, while Elgin has been a wrecking ball of momentum the entire tournament. Go back and watch this without much context so that you can experience the same level of catharsis that I did. At some point, I caught myself rooting for Yoshihashi, and my roommate had to point out to me that I was in fact rooting for Yoshi fucking Hashi. I swear to you, it happened. Great match. Now let's never talk about it again. Number 5. Toru Yano versus Tomohiro Ishii. Toru Yano is about as divisive as New Japan offerings come. So his stuff either works for you and then you love YTR with all of your heart, or it doesn't and then he's basically your bathroom break. I fall in the first category. Everything about Yano works for me, from his fourth wall breaking goofiness, to his punchable but lovable face, to the fact that, technically speaking, he can beat anyone on any given night because a well-placed uppercut to your nads is followed by a flash roll-up, and that is something that is very hard for almost anybody to kick out of. However, this G1, Yano is experiencing a hell of a character arc. He originally decided to swear off cheating and take the tournament seriously. Spoiler alert, it didn't last once he realized that he wasn't winning any matches. This, however, was a night one of the tournament where he met against his longtime tag team partner, Tomohiro Ishii. Now, the Stone Pitbull is the straight man in this Buddy Cop tag team. He just brutalizes people whenever he gets a chance. Watching Yano actually keep up with the Pitbull is endearing at first and then impressive in a way that is not quite describable. You have to see this one for yourself. The ending will break your heart. Number 4. Jay White versus Minoru Suzuki. This is Jay White's year. I went back and forth with this one, whether it was my number 4 or my number 1 match of the entire tournament. I firmly believe that he is winning Block A, and he's going on to the finals where he'll provide a perfect foe for whoever wins Block Kota Ibushi. Block B. Sorry, something's in my throat. Jay White has been an insufferable heat magnet the entire tournament. His promos have caused the usually reserved New Japan fans to magically transform into the Smoky Mountain wrestling crowds, hurling insults at the unbearably snide and cocky character that is Jay White, who's destroying their icons. And None of that matters when he manages to piss off the crazy old man that is Minoru Suzuki. This match was a perfect combination of Jay's character work just running into a wall. Suzuki struggled out of the gate in the G1, dropping his first two matches despite the fact that he inflicted the most damage out of anyone in the entire tournament, before finally murdering Yoshihashi en route to this showdown with Jay White, who beat Okada and Tanahashi on consecutive outings. That's two of the last three former IWGP champions on back-to-back matches. The end result is something to behold, as Suzuki plays the unusual role of the avenging babyface of sorts in this match. Storyline wise, this is my favorite match of the tournament. However, these next three matches might be some of the best matches of the entire year. Number 3, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ibushi. If you watched the finals of the New Japan Cup, then you know what these two are capable of. This match dials that to 11. The storyline of the match revolves around Ibushi trying to hit the Kamigoye while having to feed both of his hands to the best submission wrestler on the planet today in order to do so. On paper alone, that is an interesting premise, but both of these guys flesh out that sequence into one of the best matches of the entire tournament. The less I say about it, the more you'll find you love about the match itself. The ending sequence had my jaw on the floor for a good minute and a half, and then it had me questioning if my jaw hurt, in fact, as much as I assume that Zack Sabre's did. Ibushi picks up 2 points in probably the second hardest hitting match of the entire tournament, which brings us to number 2. Hangman Page versus Kazuchika Okada. Vacation Okada is my spirit animal. Ever since dropping the IWGP Championship, Okada has been undergoing a bit of a meltdown. His character is basically the guy at the party who is trying to convince everyone that he doesn't care that he lost the belt. Why would he care? It's not like people were calling him the greatest IWGP champion of all time, right? It's no big deal. It's not like he beat every record ever set with that belt in his latest run. And it's not like the belt had slowly began to take over him like the Venom symbiote. First turning his purple tights golden, and then turning his golden tights into golden pants with a heavy ass golden robe to match. Okada is in denial. Party mode. And he's not winning. But we're not really supposed to mention that because he looks like he's having a blast, right? Right? Tell me that I'm having fun. Okay, so the storyline of this match is that Hangman Page does not want to wrestle that version of Okada. So he goes deep inside the psyche of his opponent to try to awaken Okada Prime. And I'm gonna let you guess what happens when he does. This is one of the hardest hitting, best told matches of the entire tournament. The hardest hitting in my opinion, as Page watches victory slowly but irreversibly slip from his fingertips as the Rainmaker awakens. Number 1. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Jay White. I mentioned earlier in this list how this was Jay White's G1, but nowhere is it more evident than in this match. This match served as a reminder to me that, yeah, it's fun to call him Sinahashi, but at the end of the day, the ace is only the ace because he's always going to be in the greatest wrestler of all time conversation. Tanahashi can still go in the ring like it's nobody's business. He should have, realistically, been able to take this match on paper, but Jay White's obsession with making this his J1 has unleashed something dark and very dangerous in him, which he uses to beat the ace within an inch of his life. Still, Tanahashi remains in control for most of the second half of the match until Jay White hits him with the most deafening plastic chair shot I've ever heard. Not just deafening because of the way the chair flew into the fourth row, but the combination of the impact and the crowd immediately threatening to eat him alive made this one of my favorite moments of any G1 I've ever seen. Jay White picks up 2 points shortly after that. His Rainmaker, his Ace, his G1. My top 10 matches of the G1 Climax thus far. Let me know in the comment section if you guys think that I missed anything. Quick shout out to the Bullet Club OGs who didn't place on this top 10 despite basically controlling the underlying storyline of both blocks. I am loving the storyline progression. It just hasn't lent itself to show stealing matches just yet, but that is by design. They don't care. Anyway, that does it for me this week. I will see you guys next week. Jules out.